How's it going, everybody? It is another edition of Stack Your Points. I'm your host, Matt Clausen from the Matt Clausen YouTube channel, joined with me this week, as always, with our co-host, Lani from the CallMeLani channel. Lani, how are
How
you
you
this week?
doing? I'm feeling good, looking great. How you doing?
Yes, you are. Not too bad here. And we've got Tariq Gains from the lovely confines of Texas. How are you?
It's hot. I am sweating, but we're surviving still, so we're good.
Absolutely. And as always, we have RJ from Do You Take Cards. How are you today, RJ?
I'm well. I am honestly shocked that Tariq doesn't have a YouTube channel set up by episode 2. I really thought it would be ready to go by now.
This is gonna be a running gag until I finally pull the trigger, huh?
Yep.
What's going to happen is the villain arc will be complete by episode 5. I've talked to the scriptwriters. Everything's okay. Tom Grassi's actually agreed to write episodes 3 and 4 for us, so we're in good shape. We're in good hands.
I think his problem is it's so hot in Texas. If he creates a YouTube channel, like his whole house might burn down or something.
It's
can't
gonna
speak.
melt. It's gonna melt, and the problem is I just moved to this new apartment, and I want to at least get 2 or 3 months of rent before things start going bad. So we're gonna hold up on that.
I can't speak to Texas, the weather, and the power grid. Usually those three do not always work together.
Let's move on.
Absolutely. So, as always, we like to jump in with a news roundup. Now, last week was a holiday week, and so the amount of news that we had was light. So, all I really had that I wanted to highlight here was Turkish Miles and Smiles, the Turkish Airways program, has launched a new US credit card with their partner Imprint. It is a $99 annual fee card. It will give you 40,000 points on, I believe, $4,000 in spend. It is 3 times Turkish Miles and Smiles points for Turkish purchases, 2 times points on, I believe, dining and gas, 1 times points everywhere else. It's a card that you get the welcome offer for, and that's about it. It does not give you status. It doesn't give you checked bags. It doesn't give you any incentive to spend with Turkish or continue developing a relationship with Turkish. In Lani's terms, this would be a smash and grab card. I don't think it's worth the time, but I did want to mention that Turkish does have a new credit card out there. Did you guys have any thoughts about this card or care about this card?
In the words of Randy Jackson, it's a no for me, dog.
Yep.
This is an early candidate for my 2025 superlative for card you're going to cancel after the first year.
Honestly, the only thing that I can think of when it comes to really Turkish Airlines is United Saver Awards. But other than that, it exists.
It has a
But
cool
even
logo.
yeah, I mean, if you like EuroLeague basketball, Turkish Airlines sponsors that, but that's it. Get
That's
it if
it.
you want to try to navigate their super complicated website for United Saver Awards that I think just recently got devalued last year anyway. So have fun with that.
The other big plus that I saw was the first 5,000 people who get the card get the metal version of the card, which if that is your
Ooh.
big if that is your big pull, I will let Simon Cowell insell this card. This isn't worth me insulting.
I will also add to that, Matt, that I will never leave a sarcasm comment on your video ever again. I got so many questions about how'd you know you were number 44?
I did do a video on this one, and yeah, okay, yeah. If
Yep.
there's limited edition stuff, we know not to say I'm number X.
I got to put a disclaimer that I'm being sarcastic because I've had so many people literally reach out and ask me questions about signing up for this card. I'm like, I did not sign up for this card. It was pure sarcasm.
You need
Yeah,
to put your /s on the comments. It's the internet. No one knows you're joking.
It was trolling gone wrong. It was trolling gone honestly.
There
It was so
really
bad.
does need to be a special font on the internet that is just, this is sarcasm. They need that special font.
It just goes to show you how real the community can be, because they're like, yo, how'd you know that where you were at out of the 5,000? I'm like, I am 0
Look,
out of
I'm
5,000.
just surprised that there are actual people that are somewhat interested in this card to be like, how do you get this card? Like, you don't. You go get a United Explorer card if you want to get like United Save Rewards.
Devil's advocate here. This card can work for some people. Might be a small group of people, might be a subset of people. So let's not go ahead and joke and like run this card into the ground, because this could be a worse version of the Alaskan Airlines card, which also fits with some people. It ain't us four, and it's probably not the rest of everyone listening to this podcast and video right now. But at least somewhere between 1 and 5,000 people, this card might be good for.
Look, we're probably going to get our first hate comment. Some Turkish Airlines loyalist.
I am being sarcastic.
There we
I
go.
really need to put a bell in every time Tariq brings up United, because at this point, that is also a running joke.
Let's
Oh,
just
yeah,
make
he
it a
says-
drinking game.
He brings it up more than me. That's saying something.
Folks, if you're watching or listening, please do not turn this into a drinking game. We need you to survive to episode 3.
Again, sarcasm.
I'm drinking water.
Yes, same. But we'll leave it at that. So, new Turkish Airlines card could work for a very, very small subset of people. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. It is a new card, so I always want to talk about new cards. With that being the only news item of the day, or the only news item I found, let's jump into our topics, because we have a good number. We're going to start with my topic today, and we're just going to go in order. And my topic I wanted to bring up is kind of a hypothetical. It's based on a post I found on the Chase Sapphire subreddit. Subreddits in general are dangerous places, but the Chase Sapphire one offered this really interesting hypothetical where Chase got 3 times categories for gas and grocery, and the Chase Freedom Unlimited became a flat 2% earner. Please make this happen. The trade-offs were that you had to give up Hyatt and that you got Marriott as a 1 to 2 transfer partner. So my question would be, if you could take one transfer partner from an issuer and move it to any other issuer, which transfer partner would it be? Where are you transferring them to? Now, you do not have to fully remove this transfer partner from the original issuer. That is entirely your choice. For me, I would love to take away Hyatt from Chase, because it would make people actually reevaluate Chase for the program that it is, where all of the value is in your welcome offers, and after that, it becomes significantly harder for most maximizers to get full value out of Chase, unless you're Lani, in which case, I just have to keep watching your videos on how to make Chase work even more for me.
Thanks, Matt.
Absolutely. But I also want to do it just because I want people to reevaluate Chase whenever they can. And Hyatt is doing a lot of heavy lifting for Chase, in my opinion, that if it got taken away and moved to Citi or Wells or Capital One, that they would become the new it child in the credit card space, just because of the Hyatt redemption. So for me, I want to take away Hyatt from Chase, and for fanboyism, I'll put them with Wells Fargo, but they could go anywhere, and I just want people to reevaluate Chase. So let's take this around. Lani, do you have any thoughts on this particular topic?
I like the conversation. I think it's a fun conversation, to be completely honest. But I am going to respectfully bow out, because I don't really care what you take away from Chase, as long as you don't take away IHG and you don't take away United You can take away anything else because everything else I do with Chase is probably through the travel portal, which of course gives me access to almost everything. But I will play in this space. And I see you got a question, but if United could join in with Amex, so we have Chase built Amex,
That's
all
exactly where I was going to go.
or IHG, which is also Chase built as of right now, and then add IHG to Amex. Oh, I don't know what my tomorrow would look like if one of those transfer partners was part of the Amex ecosystem. So that's where I would because that would fit me personally in the real world that I live in, of course. But in the hypothetical world, I don't really care if we lost anything as long as it's not the two main ones that I specifically use. My two main transfer partners, that is. So, as most people know, my main airline is United. My main hotel is IHG because I like to stay at Intercontinentals the most. Now they got Kipton. They just brought in Kipton IHG. So I look to start staying in some Kiptons later this year, actually. So stay tuned for that. But other than that, yeah. I mean, they could lose Singapore, but Singapore transfers to everybody. KLM, they transfer to everybody. So,
Caveat: you don't have to take away from Chase specifically.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
But see,
any transfer, any issuer, like you could add United to Amex.
My main two are with Chase. United and built already. I mean, Chase and built already. So as long as I don't lose that, I mean, even like with Marriott, it's underbuilt. I don't have to worry about that. So, it's those types of things that kind of make me bow out, and I won't give at least a justified or reasonable answer in this hypothetical conversation because I physically don't have the mindset to see how my world would change.
Completely fair and valid. Yeah, I get you there. Tariq, what about you?
So this is something that I've thought about. I think it's been in conversations with in the venture capital Discord, especially since Built just lost American Airlines. I think the perfect situation for that would be Citi finding a way to snatch up American Airlines and add them as the transfer partner because it only makes sense. I mean, Citi is the issuing bank for all of the American Airlines Advantage word salad cards. And having American Airline, having that domestic airline partner levels the playing field with Chase and Amex, and it honestly will start kicking Chase's teeth in just on the redemptions because I mean the Citi Double Cash is already 2x versus the Freedom Unlimited is 1.5x. The Custom Cash gives you a 5x category on like pretty much most of your everyday categories. Plus the Citi Premier gives you 3x on pretty much all your everyday categories. You get the Double Cash as a catch-all. You get your pretty much your main driver in your Citi Premier, and then like the car that gives you like the category that gives you the most spend would be that Custom Cash. And I mean, you can even if you wanted to throw in the Awards Plus for Razzle Dazzle. So I think Citi getting American just off of what's already in play for Citi with the cards is like that's a home run. And you talk about Wells giving Chase a run for their money, Matt. Citi gets American, Chase better like kind of look over their shoulder.
Can I comment on that, Tariq?
Yes.
Because I don't disagree with you. I'm not taking anything away. But you brought up American, and of course, as we know, Built just lost American as it was the only card brand out there that had transfer partner to American. They just lost it in June of 2024, so last month. A lot of people don't know, and I probably should have put this in my most recent point stacking video, but you can actually, for those that actually still drive cars that take gas, combustion engine cars, you can actually point stack American to 3 miles per dollar.
Yep.
With Shell gas stations, which I think is a way better deal than any type of transfer partner because now it opens up to any card. If you got a card that can get 5x on gas or whatever your 5% back, or even more than that, all you got to do is just go fill up at a Shell station. And
True.
I know my car takes like $80 from 0 to full. on a good week. I drive
Ouch.
an SUV. I'm not gonna lie. I drive an SUV. I am not helping the environment right now. But anyway, I love my car.
I know you do.
But still, like 240 miles, even on an airline that I don't fly. Let's just call it what it is. I fly American of rarely. Like if a partner or a client that I work with or for buys it for me, then sure, I'll fly it. I'll fly on American. But still, those miles stack up enough where it might not take a year or two, but after a couple of years, as long as that promo stays active, I mean, I could have enough for at least a one-way flight, at least an economy flight, maybe for an upgrade or something. So let's not take away from that because yes, a lot of people are upset that American does not. There are no transfer partners to American right now, but there are still lots of different ways to get American miles that are decent. Like 3 miles per dollar is good. We all talk and fight for 3% back and 3 mile at 3 points per dollar on our credit card. This opens it up to any particular credit card. And on top of that, before I stop real quick, let's not forget Delta. If you are not a Built user, you can do the Lyft same transfer thing that you have with Built. Instead of choosing Built, just switch it over to Delta instead, which means you can be getting Delta miles for every Lyft ride you take. Let's not forget these backdoor or point stack opportunities that are out there. Not everything has to go through your credit card.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna just add this onto it, and it's actually gonna drive into my point later down the line. But yeah, the city, like the shell with American Airlines is great. I just think about it as, you still have that option, and then you put that on your city premier, so you're getting 3 thank you points per dollar that you could transfer to AA on top
Mhm.
of, earning 3 AA miles per dollar.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah,
effectively, if you're transferring your city points to AA in that hypothetical, you're gonna get 6 miles per dollar just off of, filling up.
yeah,
So to your point, your $80 fill up with your SUV, and I mean I'm from Texas, I'm in Texas, so we got trucks and SUV anywhere.
yeah.
That's
You have
what,
no electric chargers
480.
down there.
We have them at Bucky's. But yeah, that's 480 miles just on a hypothetical. So yeah,
which
it
is a
just adds on to the
which is a
stack.
good transaction. That's a good 400, almost 500 points or miles in one transaction is a good transaction. I 100% agree with that.
Absolutely.
Please let it be known that we are absolutely open for any Bucky's transfers, any Bucky's sponsorships in the future. RJ, any thoughts on AA, or would you like to chime in on transfer partners you'd like to take away from one issuer or add to an issuer?
So we've talked about United, we've talked about AA. It's now time to talk about Delta, because right now the only place you can get Delta directly without doing backdoor things is through Amex, which I am a fan of Amex. But I looked longingly at some of the Wells Fargo cards, like the Attune and the Journey, and I would very much like to utilize those cards, but Wells Fargo does not have a transfer partner of which I would use naturally. But if I could add Delta, so I could have my setup be Amex and Wells Fargo, I would be a very happy girl. And I would be able to sort of use that setup in naturally how I spend without having to change things. And I also could get rid of some of the annual fee cards I have with Amex to turn them into no annual fees with Wells Fargo, which also would make me very happy. So in this hypothetical scenario, I pay $1,000 less a year and get more benefit. And I like those scenarios. It makes me happy.
You only like it because you are currently in gardening and you feel like you're just sitting on your hands and you want a reason to open up a new card.
I could not get a Wells Fargo card if I slipped the person running my application $100 right now, so it doesn't matter, but eventually I would like some Wells Fargo cards if they get a transfer partner, because ultimately if the credit card you want doesn't have a transfer partner you can use or a way to get your points off that card, it can be a challenge.
Yeah, in that case, the only thing I could think of would be taking the cash back if you have a solid cashback option, and then taking that return and buying points. with your preferred airline, but that can get a little tricky. Also, please let it be known, bribing the folks at Wells Fargo is not necessarily going to get you anywhere
It'll get me a pair of shiny new bracelets.
I
in
don't think
so
it's
many
illegal
ways.
to bribe them.
Besides, Wells Fargo's done plenty of illegal things themselves.
Like, how is that any different than bringing your flight attendant a gift or a gift card? It's not illegal. You're just trying to get a little something extra in a G-rated way, people. All right, keep it clean here.
Just trying to get credit cards. That's the only thing I want.
Just want more miles or points, whatever you fancy in this community.
Oh Lord, this
Yeah.
went sideways.
Thanks, Lani.
You're welcome.
Oh man, sorry about that, y'all.
I'm not.
That's fair. That is fair. With that, let us move over to our next topic. And Lani, would you like to introduce it?
Absolutely. So I was reading this article over the weekend from NBC, CNBC, MSNBC, one of the NBC brands that is, and they were talking about travel debt. And I thought, and it was very interesting because of the credit card space that we live in. Of course, we have found ways to optimize our everyday spend through credit cards so that we can have discounted travel in some way, shape, or form. But for those that are not familiar with the ins and outs of the credit card game, or they're not in a financial position to be a part of the credit card game, let's just say they don't have like a high credit score where they can get 5, 10, 15. uh who was it? Joe Barretto just yesterday announced he had 25 cards. Like, there are a lot of people that don't have that luxury or option based on their financial situations or their credit situations or things like that. And what they ended up doing are taking out personal loans just to take a vacation. Now, that actually opened my eyes in a couple of different ways. First off, I found it incredibly scary because of the downward slope that could actually end up turning into. Because depending on what that loan is, if it's through a credit union or a bank, you might get a better interest rate. Of course, we know that's going to be a better interest rate than just putting it flat on a credit card. Or even what they call phantom debt, where it's like, all right, do this, and you'll see it with like Afterpay and Klarna, like 4 easy payments over the next couple of months, where that particular debt's not even categorized by like a credit bureau, like in the normal sense of like, I didn't pay my credit card off by the end of the month. Like, that actually gets reported to a credit bureau. And I just thought that was very, very, very striking to hear that people are going to that particular length. Now, I understand inflation, I understand different ways of life. I know about social economic diversity and the entire spread. You know, I'm from the south side of Chicago. I know what it's like down there. I know what it's like to get out of that particular type of neighborhood as well. So I'm not knocking people for their lifestyle, but at the same time, I also understand how important it is to be able to take a break from your everyday life. Whatever, take a day off or a week off from your job, or for, in some cases, people, family. I used to run away from my family all the time. Like, I'm out, I'm just going. Like, I couldn't be around my siblings anymore. I'm on vacation. I get it. But to what point, and like I said, I'm not judging anybody for their decision, but to what point is it too much? Or what point is it a bad decision? And most importantly, the conversation that I want to drive is, what are some of the better or safer options that are more inclusive for everyone, not the ones that are making a good amount of money, not in the debt, understand the ins and outs of credit card game, but the ones that feel like this is their only option to be able to take a vacation, and they're going to go buy a vacation that they probably can't afford to pay off right away, not via credit card, or maybe even a personal loan. What other options are out there for those particular type of people, so that, of course, we don't want more people to have debt. This country is trillions of dollars just in credit card debt. So how do we help avoid that? I'll start off with RJ this time.
I think one of the issues is, especially for the slightly older generation, is they are accustomed to doing the same thing every year, right? Like I have friends and
Mm,
family, every year they go to New Orleans or they go to the West Coast, the Seattle area, right? And that is markedly more expensive than when they started doing it in like 1992. But in their heads, every summer for a week and a half, they're doing this one activity. And I have seen just from watching these family friends do this every year that it is more expensive. They have to tighten budgets more for more months in a row to be able to do this trip. And when I saw this topic be put in today, I reached out to one of them and I text them and I asked point blank, because I am that kind of person, like, have you ever taken out a loan for this trip that you do? And they said, no, but that might be a good idea, which now I feel
Oh
a little
no,
guilty for putting it into their
RJ.
head. But that the problem is for this family, the trip to New Orleans and the trip to the West Coast are really important for how they identify as a family, right? Because the kids are all grown and they have their own kids. Life is busy. The parents feel like they need to pay for this trip because that is their way of like showing the family they love each other, but they now have they're not just paying for the three kids, right? They're paying for the three kids and the spouses and the grandkids, and the cost of all of this is more expensive.
mhm.
So it becomes this place where I think for some people it's a mark of taking care of your family and status and all of that, where we have all of these ideas wrapped up, like all of the movie montages, right, are all these vacations and all these lovely moments, and social media are all these perfect moments where everybody's on vacation. And I think we need to unwrap that. Like you can go, where I am, you can go to the Catskills or you can go, up into the Adirondacks or do things that are much, much cheaper. You still get the family time, but for them, the fact that they've always gone to these places matters so much that they're blinded to the other possibilities. So I think it's sad, but I understand from a human perspective why one might do it in situations like that. If you're 27 and really want to go to Bora Bora, I think maybe I understand that less, right? I still understand it, but much less. But I get for certain generations, this is part of their identity as a family.
So I like one. Well, I actually have a follow up, but I'm going to actually wait for Tariq and Matt's answer before I have this first follow up question. But the second follow up question that I'm going to ask first, a little backwards. I know, leave me alone. Um, in what they called Instagram culture in this article,
Mhm.
and if I find the link, I will 100% like send it over so we can put it in the description. It was a great article. It was a really good read. Um, Instagram culture. So, RJ, you mentioned Bora Bora. Of course, people talk about Maldives. I have no interest in going to the Maldives because of Instagram culture. It's not even a vacation anymore. It's a bunch of influencers and content creators that are just recording to either highlight their social media accounts, like this is a highlight of my life, or I am making content on this to also say, look what I'm able to do or how I'm able to do it. I got here on credit card points, whatever, which is completely fine. Run your business. I'm not going to stop you, but I don't find that relaxing when I get out there. And the first time I personally experienced Instagram culture was a couple of years ago. I went to Indonesia. I went to Bali, and I swear, like every time I made a left turn somewhere, it was take a picture of this. If you went to like a temple, there's a line of people. Yep, like that tree. There's a line of people just waiting to take the exact same photo. Just and like post them on top where people are hiring like photographers in Bali to like follow them around and just take candid photos. It actually ruined my Bali experience where I'm like, you know what, we're going to Uluwatu. We're going to go somewhere else. Like we literally skipped town on the island and went somewhere else. But that Instagram culture, that FOMO, or that I want that particular life was in the article, they had specifically stated was a huge driver for that age demographic that you had mentioned, RJ, that like mid-20s, early 30s or whatnot. If they're in social media or not, content influencer, creator or not, it's because that's what they see and that's what gets pumped into them from their social feeds. Where now it's like the only way I can do that is to like I saw um for example, like I saw Kardashian stay at the bungalow over the water in Bora Bora. I want to do that too, not realizing the Conrad by itself is already got a comma in it. Period. You say Conrad, you're getting a comma in your bill. You add Bora Bora, you're adding two more commas in your bill. you know, and that's what made me think was like there has to be an easier way. Yes, if that's the experience you want, go get your experience. I'm on team experience all day. I'm on team take the trip. But is it worth taking out 10,000, 15,000, $20,000 for Instagram moment? Or is there a better way that they could do it? So thank you for that, RJ. Tariq, I saw you're about to jump in with a comment, so you can go next.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it on the head with like the Gen Z, with like the Instagram culture, millennials and Gen Z. I mean, I'm Gen Z, so like I see it all the time, and like the FOMO is real. And like I've taken a few, small trips, nothing like too Instagram worthy, but I mean, for me, the reason why I got into the credit card game was because, hotels and flights are expensive. So if I can just find a way to subsidize my cost, I mean, I don't like, obviously I don't see it as like a free flight, but I mean, I booked a flight, and a round trip flight for me was $11 and like 20 cents or whatever it was. So
Mhm.
like that's versus paying like $300 outright. And that's just for Southwest. Um, so it's a scary thing. I mean, I remember it was my best friend's 21st birthday, and I remember this was stupid. I got into credit card debt. This was before I even kind of knew what I was doing. I paid like $60 to be at some like janky Super 8 hotel, like somewhere in Houston. Yeah, it was behind bulletproof glass was the front desk. So I I just wanted to be there for my best friend's birthday. He stayed at, I think it was like Hotel Alessandro. It was like a $300 a night hotel. Might have been on something like FHR now, but like even then, I was like, I know I'm gonna get into debt, but I don't want to go into crazy debt. I know like how crazy Instagram culture is, and like everybody wants either that big hit, whether they want like the extra followers, extra likes, few comments. And I mean, don't get me wrong, going to like the Maldives or going to like Hawaii, getting those like sunset pictures or wherever people do with like Instagram, they're great experiences, but I think it's less to do with like credit card points and miles thing for people that aren't in it. And it's just a personal finance thing. And especially, I see it a lot with, like I said, my generation, people that are willing to just go into like 4 or 5 figures of debt just so they can have the experience, whether it be to experience it for themselves or for the, dare I say, superficial reason, just kind of like impress somebody else behind the screen. And it kind of gets into like the YOLO mentality, and people don't realize how hard it's going to hit them later on in the future. So it'll definitely snowball. And while I'm a fan of, the experience and take the trip, not at the expense of your financial future, because that's where it gets scary and people don't realize it until it's too late. I watch a lot of Caleb Hammer, and his thing is he likes to say kind of you're keeling over the Walmart floor in your like 80s. So, I don't want that life. I want to be able to retire. So some people will realize it. Other people, I hope they do, but sometimes it's not until it's too late. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Great response. Great response. Matt?
So first of all, when it comes to Instagram culture and all of that, can I just make the small confession that some of my favorite YouTube shorts are the ones where it does like that Instagram uh vision, and you've got like AWOL Nation's sail blaring through the what you expect, and then it immediately contrasts
Then
with
the
these high
reality.
pitched, awful recorders of AWOL Nation's sail of the reality, and it's like, oh, here's this amazing sunset that you're going to see on Bora Bora, versus you're not actually going to see the sunset because of everyone who's crowding the same spot where you're taking the photos. Like, I
Yeah.
love those
Yeah.
shorts because it at least can ground you a little bit. If you haven't seen those shorts, find a way to look at them, because it will temper your expectations a little
They
bit.
are
But
great.
in
Yeah.
terms of like being able to take the trip, I think there's a number of vehicles that folks don't necessarily think of that could be a little bit tricky, but with a little financial education, you could look at them, and it's going to be a question of like your risk tolerance. So like you can do things like, if you're in a position where you have a 403b or a 401k, you can borrow against the 403b 401k,
Sure.
where
Okay.
you're not paying you're not paying interest to a bank, you're paying interest to yourself, but it's all coming out of your paycheck. Now if you're willing to take that on, and you're willing to pay yourself 9% interest back into your retirement account, that could be a way to do it. Now with that, you can only take out about like 50%, up to 50% of what the value is in your 403b 401k, and that caps out at $50,000. But if you're taking a $50,000 vacation, I don't know what you're doing. Take that $50,000 and buy yourself a house. To me, there's other services that are starting to come up now. Lani, have you ever heard of a service called Sorbet?
I have not.
I thought that's a dessert.
Is a dessert, very tasty. So there's this new fintech company called Sorbet, and what Sorbet does, and it's a little tricky, or it sounds a little tricky, and I don't want to like pitch this as the next best thing. Sorbet will let you kind of give your paid time off at your company to you as a loan, where like you'll repay it with your time off that will come back to you. If you've got something where you could, where your job will allow you 10 weeks of paid vacation, you could use 6 of them with Sorbet to cash out 6 weeks of paid vacation. That could cover a good chunk of a vacation without having to go into too much debt. Now, let me preface this by saying, not a financial expert, not a financial advisor. Your mileage is definitely going to vary on this, and Sorbet may not be available everywhere. But something like that would let you use your benefits with your job to trade in your paid time off bank that you may or may not be able to use, and get some financial benefit that way. So those are 2 ways that you could at least like extract some money without having to go to American Express and say, I would like a personal loan to go to Bora Bora for a week. Amex will give you the loan, but they'll also give you 12% interest on that personal loan. Whereas borrowing against your 403b 401k, you're going to pay what, 9% interest, and you're paying it to yourself, and you're paying it to your future self, who will thank you for that. So there's some other ways that you can think about it, but you shouldn't have to go into debt if you're looking to make those big play, or if you have that yearly trip. Find some other ways to supplement the yearly trip. If it's been a family tradition for 30 years, there comes a point where in my family, I'd be willing to ask my parents, like, hey, do you need me to contribute anything? Things like that. Now, that is not to say that that family needs to do that, but there are some ways that you can supplement that. Not
That's
to
what happened
speak
to my
ill.
family.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to go
Um,
to my parents and say, "Hey, I'm gonna pay my part." They're like, we're going on vacation. If you want to come, you have to pay your part.
Right. Right. Every family is different. All those expectations are a little different. I'm not trying to like step on that particular
Yeah.
situation, but you know, that is one thing that can happen, especially if it's a yearly plan. This is what we do. This
Mhm.
is who we are. The other thing would just be, you know, starting to look at ways that you can offset that trip with cash back, with, you know, the spend that you've been doing all year. When you've been tightening your belt, you can still use the cash back earned from that. Any welcome offers that you get from new cards that you may open. I know it's not, you're not going to open like 5 or 6 cards just to finance a vacation, but you know, starting to think about things either in terms of cash back or in terms of points that you accrue, and starting to use those points for things other than for things to supplement the trip. Starting to look into and getting into the points and miles game. Watching folks uh take the same trip that you are, still be able to take the same trip even with the cost of inflation, because they may be supplementing things with their points and miles. Like they're not paying the full trip out of pocket with points, but they're able to pay, you know, half or third or 3/4, whatever it is. So I think it's just kind of reassessing what tools you might have, and borrow money from yourself. Don't borrow it from a bank if you don't have to.
Thanks for that, Matt. So before I pass the mic to Tariq, I do want to ask one question to each of you. Now you can only pick one. You got two options. You can only pick one. Which one would you prefer? Go into debt or going broke? And broke is scrape the bottom of the barrel. You're not going into debt. You just take your money out of whatever bank account that you have, but you're getting pretty close to zero to take that trip. You're taking the trip. So which one are you going to choose? Which is a better option for you, not for everyone, for you? Go broke or go into debt? RJ, I'm going to start with you.
I would probably, with my situation, do go broke, because I have some like I rent from my parents, so I'm not getting kicked out of my house. So that
Okay.
allows me to have some grace with my, at least I won't starve to death, and I'm not getting kicked out of my living accommodations. So me going broke would suck, but it wouldn't be financial ruin.
Tariq?
See, I don't have that luxury of living with my parents. I like living on my own. There are plenty of 0% APR cards that are out there. So I will go into debt only because if I put it on a long enough no interest period, I still have money like in retirement, and I still have money in like savings and a high yield. So like I'll earn interest on that will help pay off that credit card balance if it's still 0%, or even just less than what I'm making in the market, or even on my high yield. But I mean, it's a credit card. There's no way it's going under 30%.
Rent from, I just want to be clear. I do in fact pay rent, before anybody thinks I'm living in the basement.
Matt?
Basement. So this is I'm going to go into debt, but that is because there's so many different types of debt that you can navigate and potentially leverage for yourself. Like Tariq said, the 0% card. For whatever reason, Capital One lets me balance transfer whatever to either of my Capital One cards, because they're desperate for transfer fees from me because I don't use their cards enough. So there's different ways that I could leverage debt to pay for the trip and get out of it relatively unscathed. But that is not necessarily the smartest play for everyone.
Mhm.
If debt is an issue for you, go broke. You know, as long as everything's paid and you're good, There you go. Like my credit will allow me to go into debt because I can navigate my way out of it relatively quickly. But that is not always going to be the best play. That is not always the smartest play. And for the love of God, don't play interest if you don't have to. Like if you can leverage a 0% offer, great. And if you're going to go into debt with yourself. Borrow money from yourself if you have to borrow money from somewhere.
Now, I really liked all three of those answers. So thank you so much for that. But I guess it's only fair if I answer it myself. And Matt, I'm actually going to resonate with you the most. Like I said, this would be a personal answer, not an inclusive to the broader community answer. I would choose debt over going broke because I would need cash on hand for regular everyday expenses where I'd want as much of that rainy day fund as I could. And in my personal life, just the way that Matt said, it's easier for me to climb out of debt than it would be to climb out of broke. So I'd probably even Tariq, just resonate with you. Find an option that I could get as close to zero interest rate as possible. I mean, I logged into my MX account today, and they're already offering me like a 7.99% for X amount of time. As I don't know why. It was at the top of my screen. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm not going to click it, but because I'm going to pay everything off before it gets charged anyway. But still, it's easy. I would also agree. It's probably easier for me to work my way out of debt than it would to try to like build up a bank account. Sorry, RJ, I don't rent from my parents.
Different living situations and different life situations give different answers. That's what we
Yeah.
say on every video and episode, right?
100%. I just don't want the bank to come take my house.
Yeah, that one would be a little bit of a problem, wouldn't it?
They're not going to be as nice as my parents would be.
I'm just caught up on the fact that you said that you open your MX app and you had like a 7.99 APY interest rate. I opened up my MX app the other day. All it gave me was an 80K off from the platinum, and I just felt insulted.
I already got the platinum. They don't get nothing left to offer me except for a lower interest rate, I guess.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't mind an 8% personal loan. Play the arbitrage game with that. Anyway,
yeah, I'm not accepting it because I feel like if I do accept it, I won't get a better offer, like a retention offer, when I actually really want one. So I'm just going to let it ride out. I'm just going to let it no, thank you. Appreciate the offer, but no, thank you. All right, passing the mic.
Yep.
Tariq.
Yep.
All right. Well, first off, RJ, go ahead and ring the bell. So this is credit to Lani for this. He has created a monster in me with United.
You're welcome.
Wednesday will be, I think this Wednesday will be about 8 weeks since I've used MileagePlus X. I love the app, and I actually just earned like almost 600 miles just today. And I realized with how great this is, I've earned like 7,000 miles in like 2 months. And I was starting to think about like other airline and hotel brands, like other than like your standard shopping portals or restaurant portals. And I was thinking, why don't other like mainline legacy airlines like Delta, American, or to a lesser extent Southwest, or even like your big four hotel brands, why they don't have any apps similar to MileagePlus X? I think United really hit a home run in regards to just people using it, at least people like Lani and me, even though Lani has been locked out. So like it's just been great. And then the stacking opportunity is sensational. I even just did my own research, and I think the only airline brand that comes close to MileagePlus X would be American with their Simply Miles. But even then, the caveat is you have to have it with a MasterCard, and it may or may not stack with like your American Airlines shopping. Now, it kind of doubles up on what you were saying earlier, Lani, about American having the shell, so that's really good. But I think Delta They just have like their shopping portal and restaurants, and all of them are going to have the restaurants of Rewards Network. Some brands are going to be better earnings than other. I think, like I said, I'm with United, they're VIP, so I'm are earning like 5 miles. Some are only like 3 miles. And then with hotels, you can earn like 6 or 8 points, but you know how hotel points are. So it's just something quite interesting that United has like hit something like really strong, and none of the other brands have followed suit. So I just wanted to get y'all's take on it. And I guess we'll start RJ, see what you think about it, because just something I was just real curious about.
I think you semi-answered your own question when you used the word legacy. These are companies that can be a little bit technophobic in terms of looking forward to things. Like with hotels, you can't really use credits. Like at least airlines will let you use credits more effectively than hotels will, or, gift cards or whatever. So I think a lot of these companies, they're not thinking about like how can we get people into like a mileage plus X situation. They're just thinking about sort of the ways they've made money for the past 60 years. So I think a lot of it is that they're just legacy companies, and those type of companies, if you have an idea like this, you have to get through so many levels of bureaucracy before it goes out. I could see in 2 or 3 years companies adopting something like this when it works really well for United. But we also have to, like, yes, it works very well for the consumers, but it also has to work well for the company. And so far, it seems like it's working well for United. But if they're not making a lot on it, then maybe the other companies don't do it because, yeah, MileagePlus X will continue. But if Delta, plus X isn't going to make Delta money, they're not going to do it. So I think some of it is just the legacy. I think some of it is just they're a little bit technophobic. I think that's ultimately where I land on this one.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know it is definitely like very consumer friendly, but I think it just the benefit of, having United getting more customers, or even like reaffirming reaffirming that loyalty with United, because they know they're going to get crazy amount of United miles and continue with United flights and build that loyalty, knowing that, hey, I can get all this value just buying like a gift card for like Panda Express or whatever and get United miles for it. Why would I not pick that? And then, the other opportunities that come with, maybe they start going for United status to get silver or gold or however it is, or whatever Lani has at right now. Or, they just maybe go get like their co-branded cards and get like United Club access. So I think there's still like a mutual relationship that's going to come with that loyalty to United. So MileagePlus X in my eyes really helps with that. Ugh. All right, Matt, I want to see, what do you think about it? I know you have a JetBlue, and I don't think they do anything other than like maybe their shopping portal.
They've got TrueBlue dining. They've got a shopping portal. JetBlue is very much just sitting in a corner with a stab wound right now, because there's reasons. But why doesn't JetBlue or Frontier or Spirit or any other airline or hotel look into MileagePlus X? I think that level of commitment to that is a whole team of developers, right? On the back end, on the front end, writing the software, making sure that the servers are running properly, keeping Lani locked out for whatever reason. Sorry. But that is a whole set of funding that United is willing to do that Spirit doesn't necessarily have the capability to do that. JetBlue definitely doesn't have the capability to do that because, again, sitting in a corner, they should be going to the ER. Frontier, maybe not necessarily the same thing. Delta could if Delta chose to, but Delta already runs the equivalent of 1% of GDP through their credit card spend with American Express. There is no reason for Delta, business-wise, to set up this expenditure because they already have everyone running as much money through their cards as they are. Sorry about that. American, same sort of thing. They get a lot of spend. They encourage a lot of spend with loyalty points and their dining portal, their shopping portal, Simply Miles. 1 loyalty point per dollar on everything, per mile on everything, so you can get status without having to go into this. Like the weird thing with MileagePlus X is, yes, it will get you a ton of points. None of the points you earn and none of the spend you do in MileagePlus X gains you PQPs for status. So United's very clever in that you can spend until the cows come home, but the spend that you do there is never going to equate to status until you start flying on United, start doing your flights, or getting a higher end United card where your spend will start turning into PQPs when you stack it in the United Mileage Plus app. But they've now gotten you in with spending $250 a year on the Quest card. Is the Quest card 250? Yes. Sorry, I think about the 125. Yeah. 525 for the United Infinite, 450 for the United Business card. I believe the Explorer card also gets you PQPs, but you do have to do a good amount of spend. So like they're bringing you in to their cards to start spending towards status, but you still have to do the flight connections. So they've decided to make this part of their play for their customers, and they're willing to make those expenses because of the spend that starts going through the app and the spend that gets you going, that gets the customer going, oh, now I need a United card. Like that's how they're going to get you in. This is their marketing to get you in. Like, again, Spirit can't do it. Choice Hotels can't do it. The Four Seasons is so far above doing that. IHG doesn't necessarily need to do that, but IHG is also reconsidering like their whole credit card strategy. So if there's a company that I could see doing this, maybe it's IHG, just because they want to kind of redefine how their credit cards work and how their points work. And Lani just lit up like a Christmas tree because
I would love if IHG took a stab at it.
yeah.
I saw his eyebrow rise like The Rock. I was like, oh, he's gonna say something about that. He said,
Yup.
actually doing what now?
Yeah, exactly. But you know, Omni's not going to do this. Sonesta isn't necessarily going to do this. Now I'm just naming brands to name brands, but like this was a conscious choice by United because this is United marketing to get you into their ecosystem. I don't know that it's worth the amount of development, finding people to develop the apps, finding people to run the stack, the software stack, making sure that the software stack is secure. Like, it is a level of technophobia, maybe, or it's just a level of we don't want this on our balance sheet yet, or at all. So, that's just a long-winded way to say it's great marketing for United. I don't know that anyone else has really wanted to put that in there, and some companies just won't see the need to because of how much credit card spend they're already generating.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, your point that you made about, getting people into the United card. I mean, between MileagePlus X and Lani's YouTube videos, I'm gonna be like United's favorite sucker. I mean, customer, because I'm gonna get at least one, if not two, United cards like in the future. So I am a victim of their marketing, and it is working well. Lani, you are the man that got me into MileagePlus X. What is your take?
First off, you won't be a United sucker. You'll turn into a United loyalist, which is the end game of them getting you there because they know you have an option. Their flights go to the exact same places as Delta and Amex. I mean, not Delta and Amex, Delta and American. Look, they both start
American
with
Airlines,
American.
not American Express.
Yeah, right. And so, and I'll say this: once you get a taste of the customer service you get from them, you're gonna be like, all right, I see I see why Lani has ended up choosing them against everything else. Growing up in United's backyard, all that. Give me like, I see why he chose them for number one. Once you start getting that status tier, because once you start, and I'm talking to Tariq directly now, folks. So put your pencils down. But once you start getting that United status with them, so Matt had brought up PQP, but like when you hit platinum status and 1K status, we're literally just getting on the flight is a point stack by itself. Literally, like 1K is 11 points per dollar, just showing up. And sitting in your seat is 11 points per dollar for that flight. For paid flights, that is award flights. You don't get frequent flyer miles, of course. You're going to turn around, and I've said this a million times, I can earn miles faster than I can burn them. So when you start putting all these things together in the exact same spot and stir it up, this is why. This is why. Like, I can't do that anywhere else. Now, to go to the actual question of the hour on why others don't do this. So there's a couple of reasons. I'm going to look at it strictly from a business standpoint, because if I just take the big three here in the US, I 100% guarantee that American and also Delta are 100% aware that United has this gift card app. They're 100% aware of it. But why haven't they also done it from a business decision? Because there's got to be some P&L, some pluses and minuses, some profits and losses, as well as some return on investment. Because it takes, as Matt said, it takes developers to build the app. It also takes people to maintain the app. It also takes a customer service team to also support the app. And Matt and Tariq have both brought this up. I have used this app so much that United has closed me out, and I have called and emailed their customer service. This is an app that's owned by United. It's not necessarily a third party. It might have been developed by a third party, of course, but it's actually managed and run as a first party United app. Like, the customer service email is united.com at the end of it. This is a first party United app. And you know what? Out of all the customer service that you can get through United, this is probably the worst corner of the headquarters right here, where it's probably only like one or two people forever on their lunch break that are maintaining it. And so even if, and like just now, I just went through the Google Play App Store. It's just over 100,000 downloads. So Americans looking at that and Delta's looking at that and like, yo, it's going to cost us X amount of dollars to build this thing, to put it out there. And United's only getting 100,000 downloads. Now, there could be two reasons. One, people don't know about it. It's probably the biggest reason, because a lot of people don't know about it. So that could be the first thing. But then the second thing could be, yo, when you start adding in developers and maintenance and support, and then all the partnerships to get these points and miles, and then how many points and miles or how many miles are we giving away in the app, and how many people are actually flying on us, because that can be tracked, because you have to put your United frequent flyer mile account number into the app so you can actually get those miles. So I'm like, yo, Tariq spends $500, but this dude, he's getting all these miles from us, but he's not actually taking flights. Remember, the company, an airline, does not make money until those wheels take off. Period. They don't make any money until those wheels take off. So if Tariq's not actually getting on those flights, once again, going back to a business stance, that P&L ain't adding up. You know, the left side of the equal sign in that equation ain't matching up to the right side of the equal sign. 2 + 2 does not equal 8. And that's probably currently where it's at with Tariq. Now, Tariq's going to start getting some of these miles, using them and getting on there, making that 2 + 2 or 4 + 4. And so it balances out. Yes. But for the broader scale of things, if that stuff's not adding up, Delta and American, they're going to be like, yo, we're not going to dip our hands into that cookie jar. Now, let's just say after all these conversations between, as Tariq mentioned, some of my videos, we're putting the information out in the Discord, we're talking about it right now, and that 100,000 downloads turns into 10 million downloads. Give it 90 days or less, and I guarantee you a competitor creates that particular app. I 100% guarantee it. Because if they realize that their competition is making money and getting customers, that it's coming out of their pocket, so in this case, American and Delta's pocket, people are switching, not flying on them, because they're getting so much value from United through all the resources like this particular app, I 100% guarantee you they would come out with one as well. And United will finally give it some better customer support.
They will have the same support as the Apple calculator app for iPad.
A lot of people
we're
ask
getting
for that.
It's okay. We're getting that.
Oh, I have it
Also,
on my
yes.
iPad, but it took 15 years.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, we got there. We got there. And also, please be advised if anybody in United is watching this. Yes, I do plan on using my miles to fly. Please don't put me in MileagePlus X jail with Lani. I actually love the app and I love United.
Keep using it. Just keep using it. You'll get in jail.
I'm scared, man. I just
Yeah.
look. I
You
just
have to.
pre-ordered.
You have to be like me. You have to go out and have a kid to create a new account so you
No,
can get back
I'll
in.
use my girlfriend's MileagePlus account because she said she don't want to do it. I will break her account.
Oh yeah,
before I
now
do
you can.
that.
Then you can pull your miles together.
Fully, yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, no. There's a will, there's a way. But yes, when you said that, I was
You
scared.
got to tell me. I know if there's a will, there's a way.
I just earned 600 miles just pre-ordering this new video game and like buying PlayStation Plus. So I'm like, I want to keep this app going.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've actually seen it change over time. Every so often, I'll still log in there just to see what type of deals they got, even if I can't take advantage of them. But like I said, now if I see a really good one, I give it to my son because he's now logged into it without issue. By the way, not even 2 years old. No one's asking questions, so no one's getting answers. But I remember like seeing like Nike for like 10, 15, 20 miles per dollar. I don't see those that high anymore. I usually only see it up to like 5 or 8, but still 5 or 8 plus add that to another 5 or 8 and then throw your credit card on top of that. You're easily 15, 20 miles per dollar. That is welcome bonus. That is welcome bonus like transactions right there without signing up for a new card, by the way, folks, without signing up for a new card.
United
All
will
right,
thank us for all this free advertising.
man. United, well, actually, never mind. United has sent me stuff before, so I'm going to stop right there. United and Built have both sent me gifts before, but that's where it stops. Chase has never sent
Self-incrimination.
me anything.
All right, I think we're on to the next topic now.
Yep.
So on that, RJ,
Moving on.
So
this.
go ahead, Matt.
Oh no, I was just going to comment. This isn't going to be awkward.
So one interesting difference between me and my fellow co-hosts is I am a woman and they are all men. And I think when you join the credit card community as a woman, it is a very different experience at times. One term that I noticed being used to different levels of effect is the term player two. And it seems to be used mostly as just a stand-in for girlfriend or wife or whatever. Sometimes it is used on women who seem to really not want it to ever be applied to them, and their partner seems to be very unwilling to listen to their discomfort at the term. And I really want each of your takes on this because I have some thoughts. I will give mine at the end because I really do genuinely wonder if it's something where I'm being, overly sensitive, or if it's something where this may just be a thing that people have not been critical around with other men, and now there are more women into the space, or there are starting to be a few more women into the space, and maybe the term has different connotations than they believed it might. I'll go to Matt first.
Sure. So I hesitate. Like I will mention the term as something that folks can, like, whether it's my watchers or people in the venture capital Discord or anyone I may interact with about credit cards. Like I will say like player two and caveat it with like this is kind of like a catch-all term for a partner of some kind. Some folks, it can be your best friend, it can be your boyfriend, your spouse of whatever gender. It can be, your kid, it could be your roommate, it could be a whole host of people. I try to caveat it that way. Now, a lot of times, like, it will just default to spouse, or if there's no spouse, like maybe a child or something like that. I use the term relatively broadly, but I don't necessarily apply it to myself because in my particular situation, I'm the sole player. And like I have my partner as an authorized user, but they're not contributing to that bill. They're not applying for cards. I'm not applying for cards for them. It is, I will give you this credit limit, use it as you see fit, and then 4 weeks later when I get the first bill and I get my first statement credit, I look and say that was too much, but we'll keep going. So for me, it is not a term that really falls into my lexicon, but I do I do use it sort of haphazardly. And I'll say now, like I absolutely will use it haphazardly just because it's one of those things where you're just talking in a conversation and you just default to the norm. I can't say that like I I will not continue like I can't say I'll immediately like stop doing that, but I do want to recognize that that can, especially if there's a level of discomfort for someone, be an issue of either in that relationship or in that situation, or in much worse cases, be a level of control that isn't necessarily welcome in a situation, or a relationship. So, I do think I don't want to use the term worrisome, but I do think it's a term that we just don't consider that it could be potentially loaded. So maybe it's something like we have to reflect on and potentially do better on, or because it is disgendering sort of, but at the same time, like depending on how you're applying it, it could also be taken back out of context, even though I think the attempt was to remove that sort of context because player two is anyone playing the game with you. So I think it was well intentioned, but potentially there are danger spots that aren't reflected on properly.
Lani, do you have thoughts?
I do, and I see where you're coming from with the question itself, and I respect that. Me personally, I've never seen gender in the terminology of player two. I'm going to go back to Matt's statement as it's always been like a partner or someone assisting in a plan, especially in this particular game, because my player two could always change. So even before I met my wife and before we got married, or even like right now, literally like right now, I'm planning a trip with my best friend from college where I am the lead planner and he, in this case, he's my player two, so that we can get everything in sync and planned across my family and both his family. So I never actually saw it as gender as much as I saw it as just an additional person, like an assistive person, not an assistant, but someone assisting. Um, and then at the same time, I never saw it as a derogatory term until just recently as well, having the looking at Joe Barreto's live from like last week with his wife and how she was super duper against being referred to as a player too. And I get that. I'm going to come back to it because in the sense of a relationship of that caliber, someone a couple that's been married for that long, yeah, don't call your spouse a player too. Like in the same sense, like don't call Tariq and I your black friend. I'm Lani, he's Tariq. Like, you know what I mean? And like my wife is not my player too, she's my wife. Now, in the terminology of the credit card space and this YouTube thing that we live in, I will use the term player two. I've used it in videos before. I even made a video specifically about the player two strategy. But if you saw me in real life, or if I'm introducing her to RJ, it's RJ standing in front of me, I'm never gonna call her a player two. That's my wife. But at the same time, there's also a level of security there, especially social media space. Because I can talk about my wife and I can talk about my son, but you have never seen me post them. You never seen them in any of my videos. You never heard me use the real name. And it's because I want to keep that security. Where even though she flies and travels just as much as I do, she travels for work as well. There's a good chance there's people that are watching this or listening to this right now. Y'all have crossed paths in an airport the same way that we've probably crossed paths in an airport, and you would never know who she is. And that's one of the things that we want is that level of security where I don't want her to, be in Newark where they're like, "You're CallMeLani's wife." Heck no, I don't want that. Especially, I don't want it. You're CallMeLani's player too. So going back to my original statement, I've always just saw it as a term, the same way like you have a driver and someone riding shotgun. There's not necessarily a gender for riding shotgun. It's a term used to say someone sitting in the front passenger seat or the navigator. It's not my wife is the navigator when we get in the car. She actually drives more than I do when we drive as a family. I sit in the back with my son most of the time. Literally, like 80% of the time, I'm in the back seat with my son. So, does that mean I am the passenger or I'm being chauffeured? No, it's just a term that's used. So, but at the same time, I'm not taking away from your statement. I personally believe it comes down to the person that's being referred to in that term. So we need to respect the person. So if RJ is like, I never want to be called a player two in any space whatsoever, real life, social media, YouTube, there's a level of respect that says, I will not call her that. The same way, going back to my original statement that I don't even want to repeat, but I never want to be referred to as that way. My name is Lani, and I'm gonna joke because before we started this, I actually had a joke with RJ. The instructions of what to call me are in my name. It's literally CallMeLani, and I rarely accept anything less than that. So yeah, I think it's down to respect the person. So if the person doesn't be referred to any specific idiom, language, or terminology, that comes first. But at the same time, using said terminology does not necessarily have to be a bad thing. But going back to it, like going back to Joe's live, his wife was awesome. I've talked to him like 3 times since that live. She does not want to be called a player two. 100% respect that. Now, in my world, I'm not going to say my wife's name. I'm not going to show her photo. She's never going to be in any of my videos unless she asks me to, unless she wants to do that, of course. So the best option is player two to say, this is the person that I'm referring to. And I reserve my time.
Great.
Yeah, so to kind of double up on the joke that Lani said that will not be repeated, if you call us that, we will no longer be your friends. But in regards to the player two terminology, when I was getting into the YouTube space, I think my first time hearing about two-player mode was, I want to say it was a Ben Hedges video. And in the two-player mode since, a lot of times it is their credit card player two, in the sense, is usually a partner or the person that they want to travel with. In my sense, my girlfriend is my player two. But I've even asked her this, and I know better. I'm not going to refer to my girlfriend as my player two. If I'm introducing y'all to my girlfriend, I'm not going to be like, hey, this is my player two. That is the easiest way for me to not only lose my player two, but probably lose my relationship. But with that being said, yes, my girlfriend is a player two in this two-player mode. Right now we're not married, so finances are separate. She has her own cards and she has her own nice, healthy stack of chase points that we are going to use together for our flights and hotel stays. So, in the true sense of two-player mode, yes, she is my player too. But in doubling off on Joe Barreto's live with his wife and even conversations that RJ, you and I have had, yeah, we're not doing the player two conversations. And even with two-player mode, I've noticed there's like different types of player twos, or in this sense, since this is a dominantly male dominated space, partners, wives, girlfriends in the space, there are the player twos that are passive, don't care really, which a lot of times we get the use this credit card, forever have fun, and that can be a little disrespectful. And there are also the ones that they are still passive, but still want to know like what they're doing, and it's just like, hey, we have this card. Hey, we're gonna get this card for this reason, and kind of know that while we're playing the game. And I want to make sure that if this is a two-player mode, I have a teammate in this. It's not like a player one, player two, like a Sonic and Tails or like a Mario Luigi. It's more like Shaq and Kobe for basketball terms, or Spurs fan in me, Chris Paul and Wembanyama. Looking forward to that.
So I don't have a problem with the term like carte blanche. Like, I think if you're using it as a way to not say a name, or even if you're a person who is not out and you want to use player two instead of boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife, like, I think that's perfectly fine. It actually is a pretty good gender neutral option. My problem with it is, and I was watching the Joe Beretta live as well, is like, you could tell that she at least, Joe's wife, had the presence of mind, but she was in on the joke, right? She had the shirt that says "Not Your Player Two." Terry seemed to, have some humor about it, but she didn't like the term, and that to me is troubling because the space is so male heavy, and seeing, men use the term when they have admitted their partner is uncomfortable, and then other men are watching that, makes me uncomfortable. I also get very nervous when I hear guys, they'll put in the chat, yeah, I applied for this card for my wife. She doesn't know about it. And I really hope that is a joke, but I've seen it in multiple lives that people will type that in. And those sort of using player two as sort of the shorthand for, I'm driving this bus, they don't know what's going on, they're not participating, sort of that patronizing thing is what bothers me watching this in a different lens or from a different section of the, arena. So I think it's an interesting thing. I don't think the term will ever stop. I don't necessarily think I want the term to stop. I think it's a fine term, but I also think if they're your player too, if you're going to refer to them like that, they also have to be a player. Like Tariq was saying, like, them having their own cards, them understanding what's going on, like, that makes them a player too. Them just being your partner who you're like, hey, use this card for groceries, and they don't know why or what, or, the difference between Amex Gold or a, Credit One Gold card, or the luxury gold card. Like, to me, that's not a player two. That's somebody who just doesn't care about our hobby. And at the end of the day, this is a hobby, and some partners don't care. Like, my dad likes to play music. My mom is not musical. She humors him. It's great. Like, but she is never going to be able to have the conversations about music that he has with, some of his friends, and that's okay. He's never going to have the same conversations that she has with her friends about mutual hobbies, right? And I think because it's tied to finances, we think of this as something sort of different, but at the end of the day, it's hobby. It's like when people get really into veganism or grilling their own meats, like, it is a hobby at the end of the day, and we have to understand not everybody is going to enjoy it.
Don't go full vegan.
It's a huge mistake.
Dude, I'm from Illinois. I'll cook anything over charcoal. I can make salad over charcoal. And it'll change your life.
Sign me up.
I'll take you up on
that.
Yeah, I think in that last conversation, it's not something that we're aiming directly at one person or trying to aim directly at one person, but like, just that broader context would be nice to kind of consider or look at. Um, so yeah, we're gonna switch now to, we actually have our first question from a viewer, a friend of a co-host, but we do have a question, and I did want to acknowledge it real quick before we wrap up. That question is, let me vamp, don't go vegan, go to Bucky's. Here we go. What is the best card with the reasonably high approval rate for someone with poor credit who is trying to raise their credit? So if you have not so great credit and you're looking to get back into the rebuilding thing, what would be the best card in your opinion? Let's go rapid fire and start with RJ.
I would go with a secured card from Capital One or another major card issuer. I would not try to get a better card, because I think a secured card is going to teach you those habits a little better and in a safer way than going for an unsecured card if you have a history of missing payments or different things like that.
Here you go. Tariq?
Yeah, I would be on the same page as RJ when it comes to probably a secured card, maybe like a Discover card, or honestly, if you even have a chance with like either like a local bank or a local credit union, see what options they have. I'm sure, because especially with credit unions with their membership, you might be more likely to get approved for like one of their cards, even if it's a no frills, no reward card. I mean, giving you the option to just improve your credit on that. They might even help you out since as a way of thanking you for being a member.
Always a good option. Lani?
I would first recommend that you reach out to the General Sledge at Sledge Inc. Team, his channel, because he has a lot of information on there. This is one dude that has already walked that lonely road of being in bad credit, not even just being in bad credit, someone that destroyed their credit, fixed it, went from bad credit to really good credit. So if you want some real life experiences, first off, I recommend just go jump over to his channel, Sledging Team. Drop him a comment. Drop him. I think his email is on his channel, so drop him an email. He'll be happy to help you out. But to go back to the direct question, I'm actually going to go with kind of what Tariq had said: is instead of trying to go with a major credit card or a major credit card brand, go to your local bank or your credit union. Outside of a debit card, they usually have some type of partnered credit card that they can offer you, where it's a little bit closer to the chest when it comes to your finances, what you can do, and then of course making sure that you could pay that off. It's a much smaller closed loop system where that can actually help boost you and move you a little bit faster, because they're they're holding your money. So it's like, hey man, you use our credit card, you need to pay us back this $500. They can also look right at your bank account and see that you have the $500. So that can actually help you a lot as well. And outside of that, look for options outside of even credit cards on how you can help boost your credit. So you can now have your rent payments reported to credit bureaus. You can have your mortgage payments, depending on how whatever it is you pay. You could even have, of course, depending on if you have a lease or you finance a car or anything of that nature. Even if you own a car, you can use that collateral back, once again, going back to a credit union, so that you can help build your credit in multitude of ways. That one's takes a little bit of extra effort, but it is possible. So yeah, I would recommend those options versus like, oh, try to go get an Amex card or go get a Chase card. Yes, it's possible, but at the same time, there are probably shorter paths to get you to that same destination.
Yeah, definitely. I'll close out with kind of trying re-emphasizing, your local credit union. If you have a local bank, I wish I knew what those were where I live, because all of our local banks seem to be gone. But we do have credit unions, so that's always a plus. Check out your local credit union. And to follow up on what Lani said with, getting your rent reported, getting your bills reported, there are some services out there. I think the one that most people would sort of resonate with, the easiest would be Experian Boost. Getting some of those other bills that get reported every month, as you're paying them and you're in good standing with those to help with the credit score. I don't know what the exact effect is going to be, but every little bit will help without necessarily going out and getting another credit card or starting fresh with a credit card that's unsecured or something like that, because then you're left with the Avant card and the luxury card and those predatory just credit one of run to the hills type credit cards. If you are going to go with a secure credit card and you're not going to go the credit union route, although on the credit union route, credit unions will offer lower interest rates on their credit cards, which could be beneficial to you in those events where you didn't quite pay everything off in full. You'd rather take a 7.49% hit than a 32 or 39% hit on the remaining balance. So definitely, don't overlook those. In terms of secure credit cards, Discover's secure credit cards are always good. For how much longer, I don't know. After the Capital One if the Capital One acquisition goes through, if you want to look at rewards and secure credit cards, U.S. Bank's Cash Plus card has a secure version, and the Altitude Go has a secure version. So you can learn sort of the beginnings of relearning the beginnings of the game and get some rewards on a secure credit card. But again, not necessarily for everyone. So just take stock of what you need to do to get your credit back in order. But when you get to that point of credit cards, secure cards could be a good option for you. There's a bunch of different secure cards you could look at. US Bank and Discover, I think, are probably probably the best and most useful in terms of, getting back into the reward side of things for your spend. But there are other options like credit unions, especially if you get like a no rewards credit card from your credit union, but it's got like that 7% interest rate. If mistakes are going to happen, mistakes are okay. Limit your mistake. So those are definitely things. In addition to Sledge, Chad's Money Minutes has also lived that life. Check his channel out. And don't think that credit cards will be the be-all end-all of rebuilding your credit score. There's a bunch of different ways to go about it. All right, and with that, I guess it is time for us to wrap up. So, Lani, what is the best place folks can find your continued wisdom on all things point stacking, cashback, and flying United for free for life?
The easiest place to find me is directly on YouTube under CallMeLani, CallMeLani. CallMeLani. That's it. That's the best place. It has all my information on there, and you can also reach out to me directly from there as well. All my information is right there on my channel page.
Fantastic. Tariq?
So since I have not decided to make a YouTube yet, my
Yes, you
Twitter
have.
is very personal, whatever, Lani. The best way to reach me actually would be the Venture Capital Discord. We are at least semi-active on there. I know I'm pretty active there myself. So if you find me, say hey, say you're from the Stack Your Points podcast, and feel free to send me a message, and get some info from you and get some info from me, and we can go from there.
Awesome. RJ?
You can find me at Do You Take Cards on YouTube. I am just about to drop another series on Amex because that is the life that I have chosen.
Absolutely. You can find me in the Venture Capital Discord as well. I am lurking there now like a ghost, but I am there. So Venture Capital Discord, my YouTube channel is just my name, Matt Clausen, all one word. So youtube.com Clausen. I talk about credit card news, credit card speculation. I'm going to be starting a little bit of a new series tomorrow with a Reddit reaction, my first Reddit reaction there. We'll see how that goes. And if you would like your question asked, like our first questionnaire, that was Nicole. If you would like your questions asked answered like Nicole's was, definitely feel free to drop questions in the comments of the video podcast, or there are, I believe, other ways to contact us from the audio feed. So if you would like that, drop us a line. We'll answer your question as best we can, kind of right at the end of the show there. So feel free, and yeah, it's RJ, Tariq, and Lani. Thank you again for watching episode 2, and we'll be back next week.